So as I mentioned, we're so proud of all of you. I know it's not an easy journey getting to this point. My hope is that you can see the outline here. And I do want you to take notes tonight, because one of the first assignments in the course during the first week is you have to list 5 takeaways from this conference, this call. And we have a recording on the course as well of a similar call with the same outline that you can listen if you want to listen to it again. But I would like to take notes and take 5 takeaways that you can utilize to be successful in the course. With that said, the course is broken down by 4 different components. One is the virtual team, and you'll be working with the team for the first several weeks of the course. And that virtual team, I know that scares people, and some students like, I don't like working in teams. I want to control my own destiny. But we feel it's so important, because in organizations, oftentimes you have to work with teams, and more that's in a virtual environment, especially with what's going on with COVID-19 and the other things that we're experiencing. We go through a lot of virtual teams. And so the virtual team aspect will be working on the simulation. And the simulation means that you'll be working with a organization, not a real organization, but you're going to be selling products. And it is a simulated organization. So you're going to be selling sensors. And you're going to work as a team to sell this product to various different segments of the market, and it's a business-to-business organization. And the simulation is a third-party software that we give you a link in an announcement with an ID to be able to access it. And you're going to be making decisions as a team in the first several weeks of the course. In the beginning, you're going to come up with a contract that you guys are going to agree to, and how you're going to coordinate your different activities and decide how you're going to make decisions. And you're basically going to develop a contract. And you're going to submit that the first week. Then in the second week, then you do a couple practice rounds. And a round is when you actually make decisions, and you're making decisions on marketing, as in how much you're going to sell your products for, who you're going to sell it to, where you're going to sell it to, the basic marketing decisions. You also have to decide how much you're going to produce. So you have production decisions that you have to make. You also have human resource decisions on your team that you have to decide on. And you also have to decide overtime, second shift, plant capacity, anything that you have to do in a manufacturing environment. I appreciate if everybody could mute themselves if possible. I'm getting a little bit of background. And then also in this virtual team, you're going to go through 5 rounds, and those rounds, like I said, are making those decisions. There are specific dates when they have to be done, and those dates will be communicated to you clearly. And then as a team, you have to decide how you're going to make those decisions, and what types of systems and communication processes that you will utilize. We will have the group section available for you in Capstone. Alan, can you mute everybody for me? I'm getting a lot of background noise. Okay.
All right, 1 second here. I'm going to try and unmute Dr. Loughran here. Dr. Loughran, are you up and running again?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you. So in those scripts section of Blackboard, you can communicate. You can use Blackboard Collaborate if you want to. You can use systems outside of Blackboard. Most of our teams utilize texting and other apps to be able to communicate to each other. Our important portion of this is we don't care how you communicate as long as you communicate well, you adhere to your agreement that you did in week 1 on your contract, and that everybody is collaborating and involved. And some of you are worried, well, what about if I have somebody who doesn't care? That doesn't happen very often because we're at the end of the program and we have students that this is the last class for most all students, and so they do care. Now, if for some reason somebody is not fulfilling their obligations, not collaborating, not being professional, having fights and arguments with people on the team, and not people treating people with respect, we have peer reviews that are done twice. And so you will be able to score them. And if they do not score well, they do not do well on the team assignments. And what I have found, the number one reason why someone will not pass the course is because they didn't get good peer reviews. And it doesn't happen very often. It is very rare in this course that we will have this. We will have approximately 9 people in a class, so we're probably going to have just 2 teams a course. So we're going to average somewhere around 4 or 5 on a team. And to me, that's a really great number to work together and be able to have, exceptional collaboration. But as I mentioned, you get 2 opportunities to give peer reviews, and we'll give you instructions on how to do that and submit that, and that does affect their grade. And so if you didn't do very well in the first peer review, we want you to get feedback from your team and how you can improve. And then you'll have opportunities, for the next time, which is a week or so later. So we've had some students not get a good first peer review, but be able to pull it together. Whatever was causing their issues, they were able to resolve them and get excellent second one. So we did put some systems in place to make sure that people collaborate well. And one interesting portion of this simulation is the first several weeks of the course, up through week 5, you're going to be working as a team on the simulation. The 6th week, you'll be working individually. And so you have to learn the simulation. If sometimes we have students like, oh, I'll just rely on a team. I'm not good with numbers, so I'm not going to really focus and let them do most of the work. Well, that's a very, very poor strategy because you have to do it on your own, and you'll be doing individual rounds yourself in week 6. You have the whole week to do that, and you're going to take a final exam on the simulation. So if you didn't learn the simulation, you weren't engaged, you didn't understand how the decisions were made, it's going to be very likely you won't do well on the individual portion. So it's a double whammy. So we want to make sure that you're engaged from the get-go on that. I'll go into the simulation a little bit more in a minute, but I just want to make sure that you understood that portion. So the gist of it is you're running a mock organization. You're going to be making decisions about products and your team and how much you're going to produce and so on for the first several weeks of the course. At the same time, you're going to be working on a capstone project. And this capstone project is your choice on what you want to focus on, but we have some requirements. And the idea of the capstone project is to be able to utilize and apply what you've learned in the program. So the first requirement of the capstone project, it has to be able to tie into your concentration. So if your concentration is leadership, then you have to be able to have some topic that applies to leadership. And I'll give you some examples a little bit later. Or if your concentration is entrepreneurship, we want to make sure that you have something that you can apply the material that you learned in the program. The second requirement is that it either has to be a proposal, and a proposal means that you have an idea to make something better. So if you currently work at an organization or you're involved with an organization, it could be a for-profit, a nonprofit, and you have an idea that applies to your concentration that you can utilize to make improvements in the organization or take advantage of an opportunity in the organization, that's called a proposal. Approximately 90% of our students choose this option. Now, if you have an entrepreneurial concentration or you've always had the desire to run your own business, then you can do a business plan, which means a new venture. So if you want to open up your own consulting business, and maybe leadership is your concentration and you've always wanted to be a consultant, developing transformational leadership processes in an organization, you could develop a consulting company on that. Or maybe you want to open your own brew pub, or whatever the case is, as long as you can apply it to your concentration, we will approve it. And in the first week of the course, you'll have an assignment where you articulate what your topic is, how it, what's just the general idea of it. The second week, you're going to be able to apply it to your concentration. The third option in here, so I said you could have a business proposal, 90% of our students, a business plan, and the third option is if you want to apply something that you've learned in the program that can be applied to any organization. So one example, if you're a marketing student, maybe it's a social media strategic plan that could be applied to any organization that could be approved. So it has to fall in within one of these three buckets. As you're doing this, as I said, it has to apply your concentration. It also has to have a financial component. That is a requirement. And when I say a financial component, a budget, a return on investment. So for a proposal, you're always going to have some sort of budget. What is this going to cost us? And what are we going to get in return? Why should we do it? If this is a business plan, then it's very obvious that you would have some sort of P&L, and you would have, 3 to 5 years out projections. And you would utilize research to be able to determine that. You would, research the market and so on, look for similar organizations as your own. So as you start to think about these ideas, I would like you to think about, the first thing you should think about is, what do you have passion for? What did you learn in this program that you are very passionate about, or something that you're passionate about that you can apply what you've learned? So if you're passionate about diversity and inclusion, if you're really passionate about that, what can you utilize in our program that applies to your concentration that you can develop as a proposal, a business plan, or that third bucket project that can be applied to any organization? We just want to make sure you are not too broad. When you're all said and done, we want you to write a 20-page paper, not a 400-page paper. So sometimes we get students whose topic is so general that you could write hundreds of pages on it. For example, we've had students come to us and say, well, I want to focus on a new image for Pepsi. I don't want to change their brand image. I mean, that is very broad, very general. There's no way that you could focus only in 20 pages the way that was written. You need to be much more specific on that and tell us how you're going to apply what you have learned. So what I have found over the years is the number one ingredient to success on picking a project is passion. I can tell the first time I talk to somebody if they're passionate about it. I've had students say, well, I'm picking a topic because I've had several courses on it. I kind of know the researchers, so it's going to be easy for me, so that's why I'm picking it. Or I've had students say, well, my boss wants me to work on this topic, so I figured, hey, why not, knock out two, projects at the same time, one at work and the one at school, and I'll just do them both. But if you don't have passion and you're going to have to write 20 pages and you're going to have to get, detailed on this, I can tell if you don't. And sometimes we have students come to us and say, we need you to pick a topic. They'll tell me, I don't know a topic, please pick one for me. We'll never do that. We always want the student to be able to pick the topic that can help them in their current position, their future position, something they want to do in their personal life with a nonprofit. Whatever the case is, we want you to be able to apply what you have learned in this program to make a difference. And that's what we ultimately want. And what that means is different to each individual person. Lastly, we're going to we have a couple things that have to be done in this course that all MBA students have to complete. One is done in week 2. It's called the Peregrine, which is a national exam on your learning of MBA concepts. Some of these concepts you may have had, some you may not. We do not grade you on your score, but we grade you on if you took it or not, because we use this data to evaluate the program from a macro level, and we also use it for accreditation purposes. So we can show that we're evaluating the outcomes, and we look at it from a macro level over term to term, year to year. Are we improving in this? Are there certain things or weaknesses that we didn't know are weaknesses, and so on? So we don't expect you to know every answer. For example, there's questions on business law. You may have never had a business law course in this program, but we don't grade you on that. So sometimes we get emails from students saying, I'm so upset on my score. I don't think it's fair. I think I know a lot, but the score was low. Don't take it personally, because we don't evaluate it that way, nor should you. And the next one is one of my favorite assignments in the entire course, and that is the reflection. And it's a video that we do that you put on the discussion board, and you are basically given a overview of how and what you've learned in the program. What went well? What didn't go so well? What could you have done differently? What suggestions do you have to make this program even stronger? And we really want you to look deep inside and say, do you remember when you started this program? Some of you might have been a couple of years ago. Some of you might have been 6 years ago. We've had people come in all different times. They may have had to stop out and come back in. Some folks have had a lot of challenges and adversity and personal health or family health, or had a loved one pass away, and a lot of things have happened at that time. But now they can see that they're getting to the point where they're going to accomplish something. And I want you to know what you're accomplishing should not be taken lightly, because in the United States, depending what state, state you live in, approximately 40% of the population has an undergraduate degree, and only about 8% has a master degree. And so you've put yourself in a completely different group that you should be very proud of. And if you're crazy like myself and Dr. Menon, you might go for the doctorate and put yourself in the 1%. So you should not, as I said, take this lightly, know what you have accomplished. People look at you. I've had people write me letters years after I finished my doctorate and told me I inspired them to go on with their education. And so you may do that for your children. Your children may not be an age now where you can even anticipate they will do that. But the odds are much greater if you have a master's degree that your children will select and choose an advanced education later in life. So you are making a difference. So with all that said, those are the major components of the course. I'm just going to open up for a second. I'm going to go in more detail. I'm going to start with Dr. Menon. Did you have anything you wanted to add to what I said so far?
Well, you heard from one crazy, from the second crazy. Let's see what I have. First and foremost, never feel you're alone in this process. Dr. Loughran and myself are always there as mentors throughout the entire program. So as you progress in your projects, I usually set up a specific time with my students, 10, 15 minutes every week, so that I can go through the progress in your projects and make sure that you're on the right track. You may have some questions that you can ask me and try to get some insights from me. So we are there with you throughout the process, and we are mentoring you on your Capstone project. The simulation might look overwhelming in the beginning, but as you start doing it over a couple of weeks, you get the feel for it and be able to participate. You're all being the top shot leaders of the company, so you're making some C-suite decisions for the company. So it is pretty critical that way, and you'll learn a lot from that simulation. That's all I had, Jen. Thanks.
Okay, questions from the group? Some in, so if you see any, let me know. I think I'm going to go through each of these a little bit further and maybe be able to answer. But is there a quick question before I begin?
Right. I've gone ahead and unmuted everybody, so if anyone does have a question, please, you can type it in the chat, but also please feel free to speak.
Yeah, just a quick question. This is 8 weeks, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's an 8-week course. The first 5 weeks you'll be working on the simulation and also your project. And then the 6th week you'll be doing the individual simulation. And then 7 and 8 you'll be focused on your project and the reflection that we talked about. I do want to say that we have a very high success rate. This may seem like an overly intense course, but you have to remember a chunk of it is in the team aspect of it as well. And the simulation is 30% of your grade, and the Capstone Project is 55% of your grade. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Other questions? All right, let me go through just the virtual team for a moment and just make sure that I'm clear on everything, as I said, just to refresh your memory. It is really the first 5 weeks of the course. You'll be working with others on the team. There'll be 4 or 5 folks. Dr. Menon and I use fairly random way of assigning teams. With that said, we try to make sure there's folks from different concentrations in there if possible, because we want to make sure that we broaden, the knowledge. We don't have all project management or, all finance or whatever the case is. We want to make sure that we do that. And you'll be assigned teams very early on in the course. So when you get onto the course, you'll probably already see your team. You'll be given your code to get on the simulation. The simulation is not inside Blackboard. It is a separate link. And as I said, we use a third-party software to be able to get this to you. But Dr. Menon and I have this all set up, and it will be ready to go when you get into the class. And you'll see an announcement with the code and the link and everything else to be able to access the simulation. And as I said, there's 5 rounds in the individual. There's also, 5 rounds in the team and also 5 in the individual. But all in all, with all aspects of the simulation, it's still only 30% of your grades. So it's important, but we put most of the weight on the Capstone Project. And to be clear, the Capstone Project that I discussed is an individual one. You will not be working on a team for that. It's a minimum 20-page paper. Now, some students go a little over, but we don't want a 40-page paper. That's why we want to make sure the scope will be right for a 20-page paper. You will also do a presentation, like you're presenting this to the leaders of the organization or to possible investors, or, you know, if you're thinking about consulting to somebody that may need your service. And so thinking about how you present, and that will be a 10-minute presentation that is done through PowerPoint with audio, and that will not be done live, so you don't have to worry about setting that up. Dr. Menon and I, you know, we communicate a little differently to our students. I'm the type of instructor that if you have issues, you let me know. I'll set up times with you. If you're feeling good, you know, I'll leave you alone. If I'm concerned, I will reach out to you. But I really feel like, you know, it's independent in the sense that we want you to be able to, I want you to be able to tell me, you know, what you need. And if I have concerns, I'll let you know. You know, in my feedback. So as I mentioned, probably the most important aspect of this course is that you pick a topic that you care deeply about. And I would really like you to use this time before the course begins to finalize that and be ready the first day of the course. Now, it might need me to modify it a little bit. Your instructor may have some ideas to help you or get the scope down a little bit. And as you make this decision, as I said, passion is important, but you also have to think about, will you have access to the resources? And so if you need financial data, can you get that information? You better ask if you work for an organization, you want to use that organization, you better ask somebody now, because you don't want to think you have a topic and all of a sudden you're in week 2 and you go to them and say, hey, I need the sales of this product for the last 3 years. They say, well, we're not going to share that with you. Or I want to look at the retention numbers of our employees for the last 5 years, and they look at, nope, that's confidential, too bad. You don't want that to happen. So you want to do your homework ahead of time and make sure that you have the data available to you. And as I mentioned, scope is also important, that you have the topic specific enough to get 20 pages, not so general that you could write hundreds of pages, and you clearly understand what the problem, the opportunity, or the topic that you're focused on. We've had students come to us and say, well, I want to develop a training program to improve leadership. That will never be approved. That is so general, so ambiguous, that we wouldn't even know how you're going to apply because you don't have a specific topic. Leadership is too general. Or somebody say, well, we had a student that did not work for Pepsi, but wanted to come up. They had this dream of peppermint Pepsi. They said that they thought that would be the hottest product out there if we could develop one. And they just know that people would love it, but they have no data. They don't work for Pepsi. They have no research behind it, and that wouldn't be approved. So you have to be able to do some homework ahead of time and think about that topic that you want to focus on. So think about a significant problem or opportunity. And sometimes students ask me, what's the difference between a problem and an opportunity? And my answer to that is usually, well, it's either you're an optimist or a pessimist. If you're a pessimist, everything's a problem. And if you're, somebody who is optimistic, you look at problems as opportunities. So I think they're one and the same often. Maybe the only difference would be perhaps in marketing, where you have an opportunity to grow a market that you have not been in, and that market might be the millennial market, maybe the female market, or certain segments of the market that you have not been able to penetrate. And so that's an opportunity. So think about it that way. And certainly, as I mentioned, you could have a standalone business as well. And lastly, those MBA requirements, don't get all worried about that assessment. That assessment is that total assessment is not worth a lot of points. Reflection video, as I mentioned, is really your thoughts about your experience. And we don't grade you if the experience was positive or negative. We want you to be honest, but we want you to give us ideas of how it could be enhanced and improved for you. And these points may be just slightly different in the MBA requirements because we added this presentation as a 1.1% of your grade to give us those 5 takeaways. And so I really want you to think tonight, how can you be successful? And that might be everything from being a great, things that you can do to build great relationships on your team. It can be about the project, things that you're considering for your topic and what makes a great topic. And you can also start thinking about what things can you do now in terms of looking at your schedule, making sure that you don't get behind. This course is intense, but it's doable. We have a very high success rate. I think we're getting some background noise, Alan. I don't know if you can mute people. But those are things to consider in your 5 takeaways. And as you reflect on it right now, I think that it's great that you attended this, that you can start thinking about your topic, but don't overwhelm yourself. Just think about, hey, one step at a time. I always like to use the analogy of, how would you eat an elephant? Well, you're going to eat it one bite at a time. And that's exactly how you take this course. You don't overwhelm yourself like, gosh, I got to write 20-page paper. I got to work as a team. I got to do this video. It's very much step by step, and it is very doable. But you have to be able to pace yourself. You have to pick a topic that you're passionate about, and you have to be a great team member. I'm going to open up to questions now. Dr. Menon, anything you'd like to add?
Just a couple of thoughts here. Some of my students have had mentors from their organization, and it is not a requirement. I repeat, not a requirement for the capstone, but it's a nice to have a mentor from the organization. So as you progress in your project, you can get some feedback and insights from within your organization that will help you with your career or developing networks and stuff. So it's kind of a nice practice to have a mentor if you can. Otherwise, both Jim and myself are your instructors, and we act as mentors too. So we are going to guide you through the process every week. And again, don't feel overwhelmed. We're here to support you and make sure that you progress. And as you work in your teams, try to understand the team dynamics and try to get in touch with these team members and get to know them better. So when you start putting your inputs into the simulation, it'll be a very collaborative effort. So you have to make sure that everybody is in agreement. Although you may assign specific or delegate specific tasks, like somebody may handle marketing, one may handle the HR and things like that, but the final decision as inputs into the simulation, it'd be nice to have a collaborative input into the simulation. So it will be, everybody will be on board with that decision you take to run the company. And that's all I had, Jim. Thanks.
Great.
Does anyone have a project? If you want to bring it on, we can, just dissect it real quick. And
I do have a question. This is Elaine Gray. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
You're breaking up a little bit, but I think I can hear you. Just everybody else can mute yourself, please. Thank you.
My question is, whatever topic do I come up with, I send it to you both for approval. Is that how it works?
No, it's done in the first week of the course.
Right.
So the first week of the course, that's one of the assignments where you give us your topic. And then the second week, you go into more detail, but we're going to tentatively approve it after week 1, or if we don't understand it, we're going to ask for more explanation. But you'll see some general guidelines of what we're looking for, and that's where you get it approved, is that first week assignment.
And usually I have a conversation set up for the first week with all my students, and you could bring in 1 or 2 or even 3 project ideas to that meeting, and we can finalize one and pick one and go with it. So don't be stuck with just one idea. You could bring in a couple of ideas, and we can talk about it and see what are you passionate about and what do you want to run with.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions?
I have a question.
Okay. Who's this?
So with regards to the topic, I know probably a lot of us that are in fixing to come into the Capstone, as they've gone through their program, they've worked on little parts of projects, applying each course concept to that particular project. But if is it the type of thing that we could take that and apply? Hello?
You were breaking up, Sean, really badly, but I think I have the question.
Okay, I think my
Let me
camera thing just cut off.
I have it right. Did you ask if you could use some topics from other classes or even some of the same material? Is that what you asked?
Yeah, so throughout the program, each class kind of is a little portion of a project. Can we take those pieces or one of those pieces, because there's, anyways, and build on them for the Capstone project, or does it have to be something totally new and different?
So you can't use exact papers that you use in other classes. You can't just take this like, hey, I already done some of this, I'm going to resubmit it. That you can't.
Yeah, no. That was not what I'm saying. But there's a project that kind of is something I'm passionate about, and I would like to expand on it. In fact, I may or may not have talked about it in Dr. Menon's class previously, but yeah.
Yeah, you can build on a topic, and as long as it meets the requirements that we talked about, and you don't use any exact material that you've already submitted, that's perfectly fine. We've had students try to submit a paper from another course, but you certainly can build on a topic, and many students do.
No. Yeah. Okay, that's it. That's what I thought I was hearing. I just wanted to make sure.
Great.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Sean. Anybody else with questions?
So what are you worried about? What can we do to make you feel better?
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's silence.
So either we did a
What-
great job tonight,
I
we
know.
explained everything, or we overwhelmed everyone.
One other thing I want to bring to the fore here is as you write your paper, you could use some of your content in your old papers and that you submitted on the different courses that you've done, because it's your own writing. So, bits and pieces from those can be incorporated, especially when you're trying to do the alignment with your concentration. And you've done some specific leadership courses, specific marketing courses. And if you have some valid points in there from your papers, you're welcome to use that. That's your work. And so you can always bring those one or two paragraphs here and there from your work, and that's okay.
Well,
but again, you're running it through Safe Assign, so if it's a plagiarism, I'll know that. But it's your work.
Just to be clear, you can't take paragraphs from specific papers and just paste them, even if it's your own work.
Paraphrased it.
Plagiarism, but you could take those concepts and build on them.
Right, because it's your ideas, so you could bring them back into your project if you want to. But don't replicate that paper here, please.
But most people like to build on ideas that they've had.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good, because if you're passionate, if you're written on it, I think it's good. On the other hand, if you have a new idea, that's perfectly fine too.
Yeah. And of course, everybody keep in mind APA is required, so do bring in some good journal, peer-reviewed journal references as you write these project reports. Make sure you have some good references to support your work.
Well, I want you to know how much we appreciate you being here tonight. And it says a lot about you, that you care and that you want to do well in this course. And we realize some of you are listening to the recording because you had, work or other obligations, and that's perfectly fine too. And like I said, I just want you to put 5 takeaways and think about it and be able to articulate that and write it down in the course. It's the 4th assignment of week 1. Is to be able to think about what you've learned in this presentation, because we want you to be successful and we want you to apply what we talked about tonight. We realize this course is set up differently. We realize there's a lot of moving components to this course, and that's why we want you to really think about it in a very strategic and plan ahead of time. So, Alan, anything you want to add?
I think you both did a very good job kind of covering all of the odds and ends from this course. I will say that in my experience, when I talk to students who are wading their way through their capstone, almost unanimously, the feedback that I get is that it is a lot of work. However much work they thought it was going to be, it's more work than that. But it's also very rewarding. It's very interesting, and everyone seems to be very glad that they did it. So I really think that if you are feeling a little overwhelmed, it sounds like, although it may seem like a lot at first, it really is a class you're going to get a lot out of, and it's going to be the perfect ending to your degree.
And just feel proud that you're getting an MBA from the Malcolm Baldrige School of Business, and that stands for quality, which is always number 1 here. Yep.
There you go.
Well, we're proud of you guys for being here.
Yes.
Proud of you for being part of this program. And we really want you to select something that you care about, that you can make a difference in your own, in your own way. So That's what we want to think about tonight. But thank you for being here. Alan, thank you for putting it together. And Dr. Menon, thank you so much for being here as well.
Sure. Thank you. Welcome.
All right, and thank you all for bearing with the technical issues earlier. Really glad you stuck around.
Okay. Have a good evening, everybody. Thanks.
Yes, have a good night, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you. You too.
Bye. Thank you, Alan.
Absolutely. Here, I'm
Thank you,
gonna go ahead.
Prakash. Appreciate
Hey,
your
thank you,
help.
Jim. Sure.